But the next thing that we can do here is make some simple plots, and I can show you how to get those from Excel into PowerPoint or Word. So the first thing I'm going to do here is make a scatter plot. We see that sulfate and pH are pretty related. So I'm going to make a scatter plot of sulfate versus pH. So I'm going to select those data, go up to the Insert tab, and I'm going to select this chart right here. So it says Insert Scatter XY or Bubble Chart. I'm going to make a scatter plot. So I just want this one right here that has no lines on it, just a simple scatter plot. I'll move this down here. All right, so we can see basic Excel chart here. For some reason, they don't want to put axes labels on there as a default, which is horrible. That should always be on your figures. And they want to put a title on here. So what I want to do is I'm going to get rid of this title. I'm going to add some axis labels by going up to Add Chart Element up along the top here, or you can use this plus sign Chart Elements, Axis Titles. And then we can come in and edit these. And my y-axis is pH. My x-axis is sulfate. And it's in milligrams per liter. So always have your units on there. That's applicable. And a couple other things that I want to do here to make this look a little bit better than the default Excel options. So first thing is this gray color is hard on my old person eyes. So I want to come in and make sure that all the text is a higher contrast black font. Let's go to the Home tab and click on the text color option up here and click the black color. All right, I want to make sure that my axes kind of stand out. So I'm going to double click on the x-axis here. And then over on the right under Format Axis, I can select the line and change it from gray to black. Do that for the y-axis as well. I kind of like tick marks on my axes most of the time. So I can come into Axis and go to this kind of bar chart looking tab over here under Format Axis. Go down to tick marks. And where it says none under major type, I'm going to change it to, let's just make them cross. Do the same for pH. Okay, I kind of like to make my entire plot area bounded by a black box. So I'm going to come over, if I just select a space in the plot area, so right here, and then come into Format Plot Area. Under the border option, right now it says automatic and there's no line. I want to make it a solid line and make it a black line, and we'll bump up the size a little bit to 1.25. Okay, the other thing that Excel does that I don't really like for putting things into PowerPoint or Word is it makes a box around this entire plot. So if I click just on the plot outside of the data window, then I can come into the border option here and select no line. Okay, so now I've got some things looking the way I want. This pH scale is not very useful to me because it starts at 0. It doesn't really accentuate or show the trend. So I'm going to change the pH scale here by double clicking on the axis, and under the bar chart looking tab here, axis options, I'm going to change my minimum to, let's see, let's make it 4. Click enter. For my sulfate values, this looks kind of fine for the range, but one thing that is not really cool here is we've got decimal points for some of the labels, but not for others. So I want to make that consistent. So I'll double click on that axis. Then I want to come down under the number option. And right now it's formatted as a general character or category. I want to change this to number. And now it gives me the option to specify the number of decimal places, and I just need 1 here. So press 1 and click enter. And there we go. Some other things I might want to do, make my axes labels bigger and bold them. So if I just click on the label, go back to the Home tab, I can use the increase font size icon here. Make them a little bit bigger, make them bold. I can see I've got the same problem with decimal points on the y-axis now, so I'm going to go back in and fix that. Make these numbers, say 1 decimal point. There we go. Now things are looking consistent. If I want to get rid of the grid in the back here, I can select the horizontal lines and just click delete. You can do the same for the vertical lines, delete those. And I can make my markers look different than the default. If I'm trying to match a color scheme for a presentation or a poster, I can come in and go to the fill in line. So I click on the data series itself on the points, come to fill in line, the little paint bucket, go to the marker option. And right now it's set to automatic, this kind of Excel default blue. I might want to make that, let's say I want to doing like a green color scheme. So let's make it green points, or sorry, that's the color of the border line. So let's make that a dark green. Then I'm going to go to fill these with a bright green. And let's say we've got a lot of like overlapping points here, so I might want to increase the transparency on the fill, like 50%. And now I can kind of see where I've got overlapping points. It makes it a little bit easier to identify and see where the bulk of the points are because I've increased the transparency there. Okay, if I want to resize this a little bit, maybe I want to make it a little more square for the publication I'm putting it in. Can drag and change the size as well. Once I've got things looking the way I want, let's say I wanted to make another plot where I'm looking at the relationship between pH and nitrate. So I'm going to copy this whole plot, copy, and then I can just come down below and paste it in here. Now I've got a plot that looks exactly the same as the one up above. And all I have to do is change the data that it's pointing to update it to make it nitrate. So I'm going to drag, if I click on the data series here, I can drag the purple box over so it's on nitrate instead of sulfate. And now I've got a plot, and I can change the x-axis label here, nitrate. Now I've got a plot here that's very similar in formatting to the one up above, just focusing on a different ion. And I might want to come in and change the x-axis scale again here, so it's a little bit, because it kind of ends at like 1.5, so maybe I want to make this maximum of 1.75 or something. And keep my minimum 0. So maybe I don't want to do that. I don't know. Kind of throws off the labels there. So I can put this back to 2.0. All right, so we've got two plots here that we just made really quickly, made them look prettier than the normal Excel. If I wanted to go in here and change these so that they're different colors, I could do that. But for the sake of time here, I'm not going to do that. Let's see. So these are scatter plots. If we wanted to make bar plots of, let's say, our mean ion concentrations. So I could select, I put all of my ion labels up here. Then I just select these data and go to the Insert tab again. And this time, instead of making a scatter plot, I'm going to make a bar chart. So I select this first clustered column bar chart here. You can make fancier looking ones, but you know, these 3D plots, they look all right, but they're, you know, not commonly used in scientific publications. We could make this a horizontal bar chart, but let's stick with this original clustered column vertical bar chart. Okay, so again, I would want to come in and pretty this up a bit. One of the things that we want to get in the habit of doing, though, is displaying any sort of uncertainty with our data. So I'm going to forego adding all the axis labels and things like that. Instead, what I want to show you here with bar charts is how you would add error bars. So adding error bars, again, you can use this chart elements option over here. Come down and click on error bars. But we want to use this little expansion arrow over here and go down to more options. All right, so Excel just throws error bars on there. It has no idea what the actual error is related to any of these measurements. And in order to put the actual standard deviation in here, which is what we're going to use as our error, I need to go to this error bar options, the little bar chart tab over here under format error bars. Come down and click on custom. And we're going to specify a value. Okay, now it gives me options for different positive and negative values, but they're going to be the same for us. So for my positive error value, I'm going to select the standard deviations here. And for my negative error values, I'm going to do the same. And click OK. And now we've got error bars or a plot here that's showing us the mean concentration plus or minus the standard deviation for each one of our ions. Okay, so now we've got our, I've shown you how to make two different kinds of plots, how to make them look acceptable for use in a poster or a paper. I've shown you how to add error bars, shown you how to duplicate plots to keep the formatting the same. Last thing I want to, I guess there's a couple other things I want to show you here. So if we wanted to add in another or put multiple data series on a single plot, I could come in here and I could copy the data in the nitrate plot. So I've selected or clicked on the data there. I'm going to copy it and come up to this plot up here, and I'm going to paste it. So now I've got both my nitrate and my sulfate values on a single plot. We got to change some of the axis values here so that we see all of our data. But now I don't know which data are which. So down here, just say ion concentration. in milligrams per liter. I could go back and reformat these values here to make them look a little bit nicer. But one thing that I need to do to tell the reader which data are which, I need to add in a legend. So I use the chart elements again, click on legend, and I can tell it where to put the legend, right top, left bottom, wherever. But right now, I'm just gonna, I'll leave it alone for right now. And I can also come in here and click on the legend and move it where I want it. So let's say I want to put it in the plot. The only problem here is that this is saying pH and pH when our values are actually sulfate and nitrate. So to rename these data series, I'm going to select anywhere in the plot right here, right click and select data. And now it shows me that each one of my data series here is named pH. So I can come in and edit these. So I'll select this pH and I'm going to edit this. And this is showing me that my X values for this one are sulfate. So I'm going to change the name here to just type sulfate. And this one, I'm going to edit to say nitrate. And then click OK. All right, so now I've got my my legend is labeled appropriately as sulfate and nitrate. So now the reader will know which ion is which. Let's say I wanted to plot pH on the, or switch the axes here. I could easily do that by right-clicking in here, use the select data, and let's see. It's not letting me do the switch rows and columns thing here, which you can normally do. So I'm going to get out of that. It might be because I have two different plots on there. But let us just reverse these guys here. So I'm going to make sulfate on the y-axis and pH on the x-axis. Do the same for nitrate. And then I'm going to come back in here and change my axes so that they're free floating here. So reset my axes limits. There we go. So I'll make my x-axis go from 4 to 5.5 again for pH. Relabel this. Relabel this one as ion concentration. Let's call this one sulfate. Now I'm going to put nitrate on a secondary y-axis over here. So if I click on my nitrate markers here, see one of the options that comes up is primary axis or secondary axis. If I click secondary axis, it creates a separate axis over on the right for nitrate. And I would need to come in and add axis labels, secondary horizontal, oops, not horizontal, secondary vertical, and make a little space for that. And I would come in here and call this nitrate. And I would go back in and change all the things that I changed about the other axes to make this match. But let's say once we've got this looking the way that we want, so do this really quick. Let's make these numbers. And let's make our nitrate a little bit bigger. And bold. Okay, so now I've got my figure the way I want it. Let's get it into PowerPoint or Excel. So I can copy this, open up a PowerPoint. And I'll make a blank slide here. Now I can paste that figure in here just by Control V, pasting. But now the problem with this is it's not only pasted the figure, but I can come in and edit things still, which is good to some extent. But it's saved basically the entire Excel workbook in here, or pasted the entire Excel workbook in here along with the figure, which can make your files get really big really quick. I don't want that. So instead, I'm going to delete this. And I'm going to come up to the paste icon up here and use the drop-down menu, paste, and select paste special. And now I want to paste this in here as an enhanced meta file, a picture enhanced meta file. Okay, now when I do that, this is just one image. There's no Excel workbook associated with it in the PowerPoint. I can't come in and mess anything up, but it's still high resolution image. I can resize it and it's not going to get distorted. It's still high resolution. And that's what we want when we're putting things into other documents, whether it's PowerPoint or Word. If I want to put this into Word, let's say I want to come in here. I like to do some of my editing in PowerPoint. So if I wanted to add something on here, like say, this kind of outlier data point here, I want to highlight it with an arrow and put a little note saying which site that is. Let's say this is, I don't know, NC. These were all NC 34. So let's just say what year this was. Let's say this was 1995. I'm just making that up. I don't know which one it was, but let's just say that for demonstration purposes here. Okay, so I've added that in. Before I transfer this over to Word, I'm going to want to make it a single picture again. So I'm going to select everything here, and I'm going to group them. So I'll right click, select group, group. And now it's all one picture. I could still come in and kind of like mess things up if I wasn't careful. So what I like to do when I've got everything looking exactly the way I want it, and it's grouped, I'll copy it again and then paste it as an enhanced meta file one more time. So now it's all one picture and I can't come in here and mess anything up. And it's still all high resolution. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is move this into Word. So let me pull up a Word document that I've got going here. Let's see, got an old abstract. So an abstract from a meeting last year. And let's say I want to put this image in here. So I'll copy this and I will paste it into my abstract. I'm going to use paste special as an enhanced meta file again, just to make sure I don't lose that formatting. But now it's kind of like positioned strangely in here. If we want to make this be able to be positioned wherever we want, I can use this little layout options icon over here. And instead of inline with text, I want to make this, let's say, square with the text. And I just want to put it kind of in this upper right-hand corner here where it's going to hang out. Okay, so now it's in my Excel document. I can kind of type, add text, and it won't move things around. If I start typing here, it's going to type around that image. I just typed a really long line there, so it's made that big white space. But I've got things where I want them. That's great. The other thing that you could do here is every figure should have a caption. So if I want to add a caption, I like to do that back in PowerPoint as well. So I can make this my figure 1, my caption in here. It's a great caption. I'll make it the correct size to match the figure. Make it the correct font to match the Times New Roman that I was using in the document. And then I'm going to copy these, or sorry, group them, copy it, and I'll come back here and paste it in as an enhanced meta file. Okay, and then I'll make it tight with the text again, or square with the text, and reposition it. Okay, so now I've got my figure 1. It's got its little caption underneath, and the two cannot be moved around without the other, one without the other. All right, so that's figures. Let's see, anything else that I need to cover here? I believe that's it. All right, so the next video in the series is going to talk about doing hypothesis testing in Excel. So take a look at that, and that would be the end of our 2-part series on using Excel for data analysis and hypothesis testing.